All right, let's get on to values and goals, creating congruence for success. What are values? Values answer this question. In a world where you could choose to have your life be about something, what would that be? Psychologists have defined values as such. Values are verbally constructed, global desired life consequences. Basically, objectives that literally dictate our behavior moment by moment. How do I know my deepest core values? Well, start asking some self directed questions. Through thoughtful, honest consideration, and then check against your observable actions and your behavior. And then what you're going to do is re-question again at the next level. And we're going to go through this entire process in this class, and you are going to have a very codified, defined list of your current personal values, and then we're going to work on getting those aligned with your new goals and objectives so that you can be a targeted goal mastery superstar. Consider your level of priority in each of these areas: your self image, business, career, and studies, your finance and wealth, your health and fitness, your social environment or your friendships, your family, your romance or love relationships, your recreation and fun, your contribution, your personal growth, and your spiritual life. Consider your actual engagement and your actions currently in these areas. Now, a good way to get started is to really kind of question from a big picture, and then we're going to work backwards from there into each of those individual categories. We want to identify the areas that might spiderweb out and directly attach to this new goal or vision that you have, or to your life's new compelling vision. The big question would be this: if I had only a short time to live, what is the most important thing to me to be living and or for me to be being with that remaining amount of time? That's a real deep question, and it does take time to ponder this. It takes thought, and it's going to take some self-reflection. But try to really take a moment and do that. Pause the recording if you need to. Write this down as a note for something you to come back to when you want to spend some time meditating on this question. But literally ask yourself that question. If I had just a very short time left, what is the most important thing to me? And how would I be living? How would I be being in those moments remaining? Because ultimately, here's the big news flash, right? You are going to die. We all do. There's no escaping this reality on this planet, at least currently. In the grand scheme of things, all of our time here is incredibly short. So it is important for us to understand and define what is the most important thing about you and your life that you would want to be remembered for or have said about you. What type of a legacy would it be that you are desiring to leave from your experience here on this planet and for your contribution to the whole? So some sample core life categories might sound something like this. The me, who is you, that category would be your self-image. Another category would be family, your spiritual life, as you saw on that wheel, health and fitness, career, work and projects, finance and wealth, social and friends, romance, love, recreation, contribution, education, and personal growth. So how do we get to our values? We're going to ask this question about those categories. And that question is this: what is the most important thing to me about my health and fitness? and write those things down. Write down the very first thoughts that come to you. Many times our intuition, our intuitive brain is correct. And we want to go with that as we're doing this values elicitation exercise. So, on each category, when you ask yourself, what is the most important thing to me about my family? Whatever comes to you, just write it down. There's no right or wrong answers here. All we're doing is starting this process of codifying and identifying the current values that we hold on to. What is the most important thing to me about my beliefs or my mindset, my belief system? What is the most important thing to me about my relationships? And then you can even go as far as defining those relationships and then asking again the question to chunk down and dig deeper to find out really why you do the things you do in that space. What is the most important thing to me about my career and my work? What is the most important thing to me about my leisure and my fun and my hobbies? What is the most important thing to be about my reputation and my legacy? There's a great quote by the psychologist Abraham Maslow, and he says, "A musician must make music, an artist must paint, a poet must write, and if he or she is to be ultimately at peace with himself, they must do these things." So ultimately, basically, he's saying your core value is going to show itself one way or the other, and it's going to show itself in satisfaction, or it's going to show itself in conflict and a constant gnawing of you not truly being congruent with the values that you feel are important in life. The doctor said that he believes all core values that we hold are based on this hierarchy of base personal needs for every individual. And as we grow and continue to develop, our values will also grow and develop and change in each of these areas. So as you can see in this pyramid, the physiological needs, that's everybody's first basic need, right? I need to be warm, I need safety, I need to have a place to sleep, I need to have sex, I need to have food, I need these specific things for biologically for my body to continue to function, feeding me physiologically in each of those ways. At the next level, you have to have safety. So I would need, instead of just getting sleep, I'd like to sleep in a house, right? I want to be someplace where it's secure. I want to have safety as I go out and embark in the world, right? And those are basic core needs, even evolutionary needs, if you want to look at it that way. And all of it continues to evolve as we get more and more advanced in our development. We have belonging and love needs that then become quite important after those other two needs have been met. Then we have esteem needs, and we have more cognitive needs. We have then aesthetic needs, and we have self-actualization needs, and ultimately transcendence. Each of those builds off of the one below it. The key point here in regards to values is you can see how these correlate with many of the values that we hold. So just keep this in mind as we continue to move through to create our list of codified core values. Values are simply chosen actions. Now, they're not necessarily ever obtained, but they are a constant compass directing our behaviors moment by moment because they're unconsciously drawing us to them or away from them. Values are typically codified into two categories, means values and ends values. And here's an example of what that might look like. Many people say, well, I have love as a core value. And that is a core value, okay? But a lot of people get that core value confused and covered over when they say, one of my core values is relationship, and one of my core values is family. Well, I would argue that those are actually means values because your family, the feeling that you get from the family, if we chunk it down, if we dig deeper and I say, well, what is it that you really get when you're with your family? Well, I feel safety. Okay, there we go. There's an ends value. Or I feel secure with my family relationship. Oh, that makes sense. I feel love in my relationship. That's what I get out of that. And so relationship would be a means value to the end objective of love. So keep this in mind as we continue to make our lists. Towards and away from values. We're constantly motivated to move towards things that we feel are pleasurable in some way to us. So, for example, what are the emotions that give you the most pleasure? Now, let's do a contrast here as we do this example. Do you get the most pleasure from love or from success? These are both potentially towards values. Do you get the most pleasure from adventure or security? Do you get the most pleasure from freedom or intimacy? So, as you start to identify and really do self reflection and start to think about what are my values, utilize this contrasting question to help continue to just define and define and define what really is moving you. Moving towards values, that's the emotional state that we value the most because we will do whatever it takes to attain it. Okay? What are some sample moving towards values? Love, health, passion, adventure, fun, comfort, intimacy, power, success, freedom, security. It's important to note that we don't value each of these equally, and clarifying this hierarchy is important because it does dictate and control our decisions minute by minute in life. So I can have some towards values, but they're not going to be the same at the level of what they draw me towards. So love might be a very good core value that I have, and at the same time, I have a value for comfort. Well, one of those could be stronger than the other, and that's okay. That's just the way it goes. We still want to log them down. We want to write them down. We want to get them on our list. Let's talk about away from values. In the same way that we pursue emotions that we want to experience, exactly the same applies with that quiet list of emotions that we do not want to experience, and we will do almost anything to avoid at all costs. Some of these avoidance values pull on us in a much stronger way even than our towards values. Let's say I have honesty as a core value, and I also have avoiding pain as a core value. Let's say that's emotional pain for me. And so in the regards to a relationship, I might have honesty as a core value in my relationship category, but I also have avoiding pain as a core value in my relationship category. Well, you can bet that avoiding the pain will quickly, many times, override my towards value of honesty. So I'm referencing here that I said not all values pull on us equally. We want to identify them, and then we want to get down to the ones that are really the big movers for us. Away from values samples might sound like this: anger, rejection, loneliness, depression, failure, guilt, humiliation, embarrassment, confusion, perceived emotional pain. Disloyalty could be one in regards to a away from. If you feel someone hasn't been loyal to you, you easily could move away from that situation because you want to avoid that. Now, what does that really do? Does that bring you to, well, really what I'm avoiding is pain? Well, then that would be something we have to look at, right? Because we want to get past the very first inclination, and we want to make sure that there's something that's not lying underneath. All right? Hope this is making sense for you. As you start this self-reflection, it's important to realize that our value priority can be different even in the same categories, but based on the context of the application. Now you might say, well, what does that mean? Well, what it means is this: the category of work for us our values in that category may be very different than the values that we have in the category of our family, or in the category of our spiritual life, or in the category of our community values framework. So keep this in mind, and that is okay. You've heard of, we all wear masks, right? And when we go into different environments, we behave in different ways. Well, we may very well have different values in those spaces, depending on what purpose it is for us or what we're getting out of that. All right, so here we go. Starting with your end in mind, first off, list the values that you feel are the top priority of your life if it were to be described or reminisced upon the fact, and then after the fact, and then use that list in the next step. So what I want you to do is big picture first. What legacy is it that you want to have left behind? What is your purpose here? Why are you here? What do you want people to say after you're gone? Next, reviewing the category circle. If you need to stop the video, go back. You can also have this in your resources file. Look at that circle of categories and place the value numerically that you feel prioritizes that category for you in your life currently. So 0 to 2 would be a maximum value. So you'd say, in my health and fitness, I am the bomb. I'm in the gym all the time. That is very important to me. That might be a 0 or a 1 because you're maxing that out. And you might also say, contribution, I could probably do better. I'm doing about a 7 there. Does that make sense? So do that whole wheel, and let's break it down like that. Now, in each valued category, begin your list of towards values and then the away from values that we just discussed. But when doing this, keep in mind the means and ends values, and we need to chunk below the surface. We need to get down under the surface of the initial value and make sure there's nothing that is a little bit deeper that's really drawing me in that space, okay? Now, after you've done that, I know we're working this list and we're working this list, and we're just going to keep working it down. Now, in each identified framework category, pick the top 10 if you had more than 10 values listed, or the top 5 if you had 10 or less of each value in each category based on continuing to ask this question. So, okay, in my work and in my education, for example, I've got this list of 7 values. Which of these 7 are the most important to me about my work, about my education, and then list that so that we can continue to eliminate and get down to a core. Ideally, we want to get down to a core list of just a few of the strongest values that we hold in each category. Now, after you've done this, now you have a working list of your codified personal values, and now we're going to rework it and we're going to get ready to align it with our new goals. So one last time, we've got to look at this. We're going to organize this list in the order of our determined priority. I want you to think about this list now, ponder it, really do some heavy thinking. And do you see any conflicts in any of these values that are on the list? Because our values can absolutely conflict. Doesn't have to be that they're just incongruent with goals. The values themselves can conflict. What values do you need to add, or what might you need to remove? So let's look at that as we now define and adjust this personal values list. Ask these questions of yourself. What values do I need to add or adopt if I am to reach my current goals? What values do I need to eliminate from this list if I'm to reach my compelling vision? What benefit do I get by having this value in the position that I have listed it in my hierarchy? And do I need to rearrange the order of that hierarchy of my values to empower me on this journey? So now take a few minutes and refine this list one more time. And then I'm going to ask you to rewrite it with any of those edits that just took place, with any additions, with any edits, with any changes, with any added values or any removed values, and literally Now, finalize this list. This is your new personal values success map. Congratulations. You just completed a crucial step towards peak performance in targeted goal mastery. And you're going to be able to use this exercise for the rest of your life. Every time you set a new objective or a new compelling vision or a new goal, or every time you need to identify what values am I holding and why am I behaving in this way. We're going to get to goals next. We're going to align our goals with these powerful values. And now you're going to see capabilities kick in like you have never seen before. Congratulations. I am so excited for you. We're going to see you in the next class.